Hello, my name is Chloe Lum. I am the programming coordinator for FAIMTL, le Festival des Arts Imprimés de Montréal. We are so pleased to be presenting the artist duo Gfeller Hellsgard from Berlin, who have been basically done everything you possibly can with printed art over the past decade. The artists have such a diverse CV and history that I'm going to immediately go to Christian Gfeller and Anna Hellsgard and have them jump right in with a little bit of their history and background.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Christian Gfeller.
I'm Anna Hellsgard.
And we worked together. We started to work together 2001.
So we met 2001.
We met 2001 and started maybe 2002, 2003. Basically, I was a graphic design student at the École des Beaux-Arts Arts Décoratifs in Strasbourg. And I started doing zines and geek posters in, I think, the first publication were in 95. So it was really like punk, DIY, and graphic design, contemporary art illustration, underground inspired zines. I published a few zines, screen print stuff. There's like a big scene in France since the 70s in that genre, and I was just like kind of like the new generation. I discovered zine because I had a teacher who introduced me as a student to that scene, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. That's what I want to do. And in the art school, we had a screen printer studio, and I basically spent my 5 years in the studio and never graduate.
Actually, they kicked you out.
No, I quit by myself in the year you had to do the fifth year. And later on, I did like a master, but I didn't have the right, whatever, not interesting. So I met Anna in 2001 in Berlin, and we started working together. We moved to Bordeaux for a year and a half, and that's how we started to really produce. I mean, we started to publish like screen printed books and geek poster. I guess we were some of the first one in Europe to do geek poster, like screen printed.
Scale, I guess. Also.
And also, yeah, in a every week putting out a book or a zine or a print and doing that full time.
Yeah.
And that's how we met you, actually, yeah. Chloe.
Yeah.
I was looking at your stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, 2002, that's 10 years ago. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah, I guess we're all getting older. I remember when I first encountered you guys' work online, I was just so taken by the way that you were able to bring in all these different aesthetic flavors, but then completely interpret them as something totally new, like something I've never seen before or since. So like when you guys really started working together in earnest and like having this kind of factory level production, like what kind of signposts were you looking at?
We were inspired of a lot of different things, actually.
I think it was quite easy to break all those rules back then because the geek poster scene was a bit
old school, maybe.
Old school. So we came with like a different set of influences, which was like contemporary art, collage, and graphic design, and not just pinups and hot rods. And we like to experiment like underground illustration and mix all that in a big pot. And
we were inspired by a lot of like East European graphic designs or even Japanese graphic designs.
Yeah.
Font, different font works was yeah, we just took a little bit from everything and we composed it anew in a way.
And then it was interesting, that Geek Poster story, because then we discover a few people like you or who there were, like Keith Herzig or Danietska, and you know, people who were also like breaking those boundaries of Geek Poster, and you know, maybe going back also to what it used to be in the 60s. And it was a kind of a dialogue. Everybody was pushing each other in order to produce, you know, more. It was almost like, it was really challenging and also inspiring. Super
it was
inspiring.
fun also because it was about music in a way, so you got inspired by the bands, and yeah, it was a fun period.
Yeah.
But you guys, like, kind of, I mean, as an observer and colleague, I feel like you really made your name with the Geek Posters and the books, but then quickly it just, what you were doing expanded so widely. Could you kind of talk about how, like, all the different activities that you guys did kind of came out of that?
I guess we produced like probably 200-300 screen printed posters and same and zines and record covers. And at some point we just had the feeling that we said what we had to say. And we felt like we were slowly hitting a wall where it was just like, you know, what are we doing now? And so we started to do like more experimental work in addition. And that shifted slowly in like a unique book in addition. We got a gallery in New York who later represented us, who showed us some unique book from artists, so completely different field. But then we saw like, and he was like saying, yeah, you know, with your kind of like technique and everything, I mean, he didn't push us. We just saw the opportunity to do something new. And we started to do big size, unique screen printed book, more influenced probably by test prints, and so that led us to push that experimental, the experimental part of it.
And we were printing a lot. We did a lot of collabs with other artists for books, and then we always had to concentrate to kind of print well and like do the registration and everything. And every time we finished such a project, we always did something like an experimental book, and we just wanted to, you know, just like we never knew, we never planned it, we just wanted to see where it was going. And those books were like kind of like a sketchbook.
We have a dog problem.
We have a young dog here who's like want to get entertained. So we used those books as like sketchbooks, and then that inspired us to also go bigger work, like do it more in a contemporary, I don't know if I should say contemporary way, but like go further.
Shino, stop it, go to bed. Stop it, go to bed. No. Sorry.
It's all right.
I mean, if we cannot lock her in a room because she was just old.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't suggest it.
We could
She's just gonna be part of the interview.
Maybe we should have bring her in the car or something.
You know, the art of everyday life, right?
Yeah. I mean, those are part of our life. We travel with them, print with them. We even do residency with dogs. Sorry.
I mean, we do the same with our cat. We adopted him like maybe 7 months before COVID started, but he's been on 3 different residencies in that time. So would you guys say that publishing work for other artists really kind of brought you to doing this more free form kind of work with?
It really led
definitely.
And we also enjoyed to do those collaboration with other artists, because it's also opened up our view. Like we really, every time we always like to do collabs with other artists actually.
But we published some books where you really had to do registration and 4 or 5 colors and have to be really precise and clean because the work requested it. And so once you do that for 6 hours, you just like, you know, you want to freak out. And that's how we started to do like more loose and more free work. And that's how we started to, we also, I think like before, like the mid 90s, like gradient was like a no-go. Like, and the first time I saw gradient again was probably some in your work. And I saw, oh, that's like kind of a good idea. And we started to use like open screen and like spray water on the screen and tape and gradients and all those things you would never do otherwise as a printer. And went deep into that monotype unique work. But I think it was like a kind of a reaction to that, you know, arriving to the end of the printing process as a printmaker, like trying to deconstruct it, going backwards.
Yeah, I can relate. I know that when Yannick and I started doing a lot of residencies in more kind of contemporary or fine art print venues, rather than like in like kind of DIY ad hoc, more kind of punk rock spaces, we found the obsession with perfection in the print to be often overriding anything else, often overriding content or any kind of conceptual, like it seemed it like in a lot of contexts, the quality of the print, the quality of the paper would be more important than what the print was. So you would often see these very banal works, but you know, beautifully printed, super complicated registration, dozens of colors, the finest rag paper, and it just the kind of insistence on the craft, you know, started to seem a little bit insane to me. And we started pushing a looser aesthetic, and I notice it in a lot of the print that I really appreciate. Even when the printers are able to do a perfect job, they'll often embrace errors and smears and stuff like that. And just seeing how you guys have turned it into this compositional tool to basically make paintings out of screen print. It's just such a radical departure from this obsession with the craft, the perfection.
I mean, in another hand, like when you look at Andy Warhol or Christopher Wool, they're really sloppy printed.
Yeah, the Andy Warhol
is like,
you know, you can see the ink is dried in the screen, and it's like a lot of. It's like
the thing is, it's really nice. I'm not sure if he was really conscious about it or he just didn't care.
Important for him.
He was not using it, but I mean, it worked totally. It's like beautiful. And then we kind of like did the same, but without the images, and with a stronger focus on just those.
What happened in the process from
like chance and errors and.
Like we're really using the process. Now we did. The process we're using, we familiar to it, and we know kind of what's going to happen when we do things, but it's still, every time we do something, it's still going to be like a chance what we didn't expect. And that makes us always like make it like, for us as artists, makes it like very appealing, and very that we want to go more and more and do it. And the screen printing is a very traditional, like printmaking is very traditional in a way. And
I thought it was interesting that after all those centuries of printmaking, you could still challenge the medium in a way, like
to take it out from this traditional, the nice paper, the perfect registration, and which I mean it's totally fine to do in that.
No,
way.
I mean it has its time and place. It's just where I see it as a problem is when the whole discussion around print is just the technical aspects. And
the worst is always when people say like, oh, nice paper. That is like, no.
Yeah, we've been saying in interview, like we probably printmakers' worst nightmare. You know, we do everything wrong. and we embrace it.
Yeah.
But I mean, in order to arrive there, first we had to learn how to print 6 color with perfect registration, and we were playing with like printing on black paper, and we experimented all those things before in order to become free and to free ourselves from the craft. And I think, yeah, once we so
Like I think.
yeah.
Continue.
Oh yeah, we didn't say I'm French and Anna is from Sweden. So sorry. Yeah, so once we got rid of that heavy load, actually, like the printing technique, and it didn't.
But it's also this experience, also experimenting on different materials, how it works, like how it looks like on glass, and yeah, different. Yeah, it's like it's a broader approach to it than just like this printmaking. Printmaking is nice, but it's. I mean, I don't say that it's boring, but for us, it's like we're looking always for something new, kind of.
Can we just make a pause and we have to deal with the dog?
Oh, okay,
because
sure.
It's kind of insane here.
I can give her like
We
something
cannot
to chew
concentrate
on.
here.
Wait, okay.
We take a break.
Okay, I'm gonna grab some water. After the break, do you want to segue into some images?
And I was thinking we could share from the computer.
Yeah.
Some images. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just from our website.
Yeah. I'll try to ask less questions and let you guys go a bit more.
Yeah. Don't bash printmaking.
No, it's not.
Can you be on the? Can we share screen share from our work?
Yeah.
And we go back to that. You guys can edit it after. Just cut out.
I hope so.
Now she should be quiet for a while.
Okay.
I'll
I
just
don't know.
take note of what time it is.
This is screen. I push it on screen sharing. How does that work?
Here, Google Chrome. You go there.
Basic align.
Click here.
Is that mine?
Yeah. I guess.
I tried.
Yeah, there's a zoom.
Okay, then we have to. Yeah, do you see that? Or
Chloe?
Yeah.
You see our website?
Yes.
okay, good.
So, what we do? Okay, I go back to the. So yeah, after producing that, we started to produce unique book back, I think, in like 2010, and we did a series based on Alice in Wonderland, and we had a gallerist. I mean, each book was a chapter of Alice in Wonderland. Just the title we used, and the rest was a free adaptation of it. And our galleries placed them in different collections, mostly around the US, like Stanford and Emory and I think Library of Congress. So this was like, I guess that was the start of us doing what we do now, like the more like radical, abstract, open screen, loose approach. And we had like we got like also like good feedback on that work, so it pushed us and to challenge ourselves, and we developed a series of unique prints on wood panel. So we would only use like tape and open screens and like simple forms like circles, triangles, lines, and you know, using like gradients and color smearing and these kind of things. And from that on, yeah, this was the series titled Bad Printing. And in that series, I guess we produced like about 30 or 40 panels. They're all like 1 meter on 1 meter 50. They're all unique. And we started to develop that system of series. Like for each sort of work, we have like a size, a medium, a title, and an ID. And that ID gets like repeated. So we have like the Psychic TV series is like a wood pattern printed on wood panels, and they are framed. Then we have a series named Stalker, after Tarkovsky's movie, which are like based on circles over prints. Maybe we can show the Stalkers. Yeah. These are the Stalkers, and it's an ongoing series. And then we have a series on canvas, for example, which is titled Blank Cards. And this one is like 2 meter by 150, and is like the same, like on the blank cards, for example, there's like the whole repertoire of like smudges, gradients, but also we light some, we're going back to light up some coat and light up some screens, and having the wood pattern, several like op art elements, and then we introduced also like spray paint and more like using the screen print ink as acrylic and aquarelle, and more like a mixed media. So those blank cards, there's like it's also like an ongoing series, and yeah. And yeah, I think so after this unique book series and the bad printed series on wood panel, we got invited, I think it was 2015, 16 for a residency in Austin, Texas. And so we went there for 2 weeks, and we produced work on place. So our idea is we wanted to get out of that of the idea of hanging a painting on the wall or printing, and we wanted to do something more monumental. And we stayed there 2 weeks and produced 3 4 by 3 meter panels, and placed them in the exhibition room. So the idea was that people would become part of the painting, or part of the print. I mean, and it's like, you know, playing on the discrepancy somewhere in between. It's not a painting, it's not a print, it's not a sculpture. It's somewhere in between, and that's where we like to move ourselves, in those like in between areas.
Can I just ask for 1 second? Was it Jason Urban who invited you guys?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's Jason, and yeah, thanks to him, it you know, it was another milestone in our career.
We told him to invite you guys.
Yeah, I think you told. Yeah.
We went there, I think in 2014, and he was asking us what other artists he should invite. And we're like, oh, we have these friends in Berlin. You're going to love them.
Yeah, thank you then.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Well, I remember, I think you said that when we were there. Yeah, it was such a long time ago.
I didn't, maybe I knew and had forgotten, but I'm not sure I realized you guys had gone there as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it was awesome because it just gave us the opportunity to, you know, do something oversized, monumental in a gallery context. It was the first time we were doing that, and we saw like, okay, let's get radical and do.
And it was also the first time we produced at the place. That we saw the room and we produced for that room I mean, in that spot. And I think that really kind of, we came out from the studio, like the studio walls, and you're really coming out in an open space, a new space. And yeah, you really have this like 2 weeks you have to produce, and you have to And
jet lag.
Yeah, it's like kind of like you have to have like a fearless approach or something. It's a little bit stressful, but
It's
in
a
a
challenge.
way,
It can also go wrong because
yeah, you can go
we
totally
never
wrong.
did it before. So, you know.
And after that, we continue to do that. Actually, we like to go to places and we produce something there. And
So yeah, later we got invited in Confort Moderne in Poitiers, where we did another similar installation.
Okay.
Bigger panels. Then we got invited in Fort Worth in Dallas. This is the Confort Moderne. So yeah. And that was one in Dallas. So there also we stayed 2 weeks and we produce everything on place. And then this was Centre de la Danse in Paris, a variation. So we did kind of a sculptures that would be a dance stage, and it's in a brutalist building along the Ourcq Canal, and the piece is also like the canal in the same direction, and it was about like 15 meters long, and we use that wood pattern in a mirror effect. So it's kind of like the wood looking at itself, like in a meta way. We like to sometimes like introduce a bit of conceptual ideas in our work, but not for the sake of being conceptual, just like to play with ideas. And I still think that our work is pretty punk rock in some way, even if it's like a bit redundant as a definition. But I think minimalism is like, is radical, the same way punk rock should be radical. We were always interested in, the most radical art forms, or the most radical form of underground or subculture. And I guess it's a logical path to arrive to minimalism in some way. I mean, it's minimal trash, it's minimal monumental trash, but it all makes sense.
I mean, I've often felt that the most interesting conceptual art is actually very punk rock. You know, when you see an artist like David Hammond selling snowballs.
Yeah.
I mean, these are practices that are like self-deprecating, that are absurd, that are often anti-capitalist, that are often very critical of the status quo, despite the aesthetics being different than what we necessarily associate with subculture. I think a lot of the kind of spirit is very similar. So to me, it makes a lot of sense that people such as yourself who come out of like the underground DIY would be like, after you've played with those aesthetics as much as you can, that you would look for other kind of frameworks that are also, I guess, really open to being irreverent, to being iconoclastic, to being playful, to...
Yeah, I think, narrow-minded would think like it's sellout. I don't see it as sellout. I think it's just like growing up and having different interests or evolving. And I don't even think that our interest shifted. It's just like, some people do not understand, but I mean, that's not really relevant to us. We just, we have a mission, and, we focus on what we do. People get it or not, it's not very important. And more like getting older, you understand that, we have a body of work that we have to do, and it's kind of a mission, and it has to make sense over the years. Yeah. And it's like, it becomes like very clear, actually, like evident almost. So yeah, that's for the installation. The last installation we did was during the pandemic. So it was outdoor and it was in Bordeaux. Same, we got invited. They had a screen printed studio, and it was a biennale. And there we did like, I think 16-meter long wood panel that was hanging on the building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I also saw like, yeah, we saw like doing a 16-meter almost monochrome, or like a sloppy gradient. I'm not sure how to call it. Was also like a, you know, a bit yeah, radical. So you see like this, I mean, JPEG doesn't give just, but you have like different black. I mean, for the we play with overlayers, so some black is matte, and then you have another part of black that is more gloss, and each panel is made out of you have the size of the screen, like a repetition, like a puzzle, and that is the same structure you would find in Warhol's work, actually, when he repeats like the Marilyn, except that there's no Marilyn. It's just like a black square that we repeat in exactly the same way. And some are well printed and some are just like a bit more loose printed. But yeah, that's like more like a close-up. So you see the bottom is like matte black, and then you have like orange under, so it gets glossy. And I think it's pretty meditative too.
Yeah.
We were surprised, the first installation we did in Austin, we were surprised when we arrived in the morning that the neon orange top part was glowing, and the whole ceiling of the exhibition room was orange. It was like, it was a nice discovery in the morning.
It's always changing for the lights. And...
Oh, I mean, for me and Yannick, the way that colors, especially like when we started doing our first screen printed installation, the way you could have the colors bouncing onto the white walls and just completely change the nature of light in the room, even on areas where there was no artwork, was probably the thing that like interested us to like kind of shift materially more and more to get into performance, just seeing this kind of immaterial materiality. You know, the color bringing itself on other surfaces without, you know, physically being there. It's a very, I mean, it's maybe to people listening, it sounds banal, this idea of color reflecting, but like when you see it, it's like, it's almost like a sunrise indoors or something.
Yeah, and it goes to almost the core of the work. Like we produced one because every time we have been invited, you know, the work hangs for like a month or something, and then it gets either defaced, destroyed, thrown away, or we store it. So we can only enjoy it the time for that month, or not even, because we're not staying for the whole exhibition. So we just enjoy the work for like a few days. So we produce one for we've never been living with our own artwork, but during the pandemic, we produce ones that we hang in our living room, and it's really nice. We're sitting in the sofa in the morning, and it's a completely different ambience in the morning than it is in the afternoon or in the evening, and you can see like,
you can study it.
You can study it, and you can see different details appearing depending on how the sun is in the room, and that is, you know, it's also like quite meditative, and it's nice to be able to sit and confront yourself with an artwork for like, you know, longer time, not just like going in an exhibition and seeing it for 20 minutes.
And also, when you produce something like this, you're too much into the work also. You don't have this like this distance to it. So that's also one of the thing is nice, that you can watch something quiet and
let it act, let it eman. Yeah.
I mean, this idea of spending time and contemplation with an artwork actually, to me, goes back to your screen printed books, which are like very much like, you know, unlike a lot of work that people are going to confront in galleries or museums, which are either not available for sale or are, you know, might be very expensive. These kind of artist multiples, allow people to bring something home, but an artist book allows like a lot of kind of intense contemplation because you're so much closer to it than a piece on a wall. And this area of artwork for contemplation could maybe be like another through line in your practice.
I mean, that's why we started doing books in edition and zines, and that's why we're still doing it, actually, is, you know, because it has that democratic, anybody can afford it.
It's important that it's affordable also.
And anybody can enjoy it in maybe a different scale, but still you can have part of it and be part of it. And for us, that is important. I mean, I don't imagine just being like you know, the white cube artist who only, I mean, it's interesting to do both, not just to talk to the people who can afford that and the elite, but also like, you know, do zine fair and print, make more affordable prints. And I think
it's always been important for us.
Yeah.
So what do you guys have coming up?
What do we have?
What are you working on? What are your obsessions?
We got approached to do some carpets, handmade carpets with our design, so very radical, also just with small nuances of colors and misprinted things, but transformed into a carpet, like big size, and they are handmade in hand knitted in Tibet with wool from Nepal, or wool from Nepal and handmade it in Tibet. So that's coming up. Then we still meant the big exhibition we did in Fort Worth should at some point, now it was pandemic, so everything is like a bit complicated, but the idea was to bring it in a truck, and the people, Sarah, who run the space, we discussed, and we wanted to place it in the desert in Marfa. And we should have done it during the last Marfa Biennale, but then COVID hit, and so that I hope still gonna happen, because so we would bring the whole exhibition we had in Fort Worth and bring it in the desert.
Yeah, and then we're working on some public art in Sweden also coming up.
Yeah, we've been doing quite a lot of public art lately, like for schools, but also like yeah, in bar. We started to develop a bit of like that torn paper. So basically, we print gradients on
poster paper, like thin poster paper, like day glow poster paper.
And then we glue them on the top of each other and shred them. So it's a bit back to the 60s. I mean, Raymond Hain or Vigelet did that, but they were not printing their own prints. This is like we print the prints and we glue them and we shred them. Back in the 60s, it was just found art.
Yeah.
And so here also we do the misprinting in the gradient. We're throwing some, you know, it's actually solvent ink, so we're throwing some what is it? The cleaning, the solvent. So you have those misprinted out also in the gradient.
And it has like that piece, for example, is like 3-4 centimeters thick. So it really has that. When you touch it, you hear it's like almost like a thumb bass, you know, boop, boop, boop. And it has a soft feeling. So it's almost 3D again. But
yeah, there's also a project we did at this place, like inside.
We also produce it on place. So we have to glue one layer after another, let it dry, and we did it for like 4 days in a row. So yeah. we're doing that, and maybe this summer we will glue some more like of those colonne Maurice in Berlin. That's also like, you can show some pictures. Like another outdoor project we did in Berlin. It's called Litfaßsäule. There's like historical, and it's just like a paper we had in the studio actually lying around, and we glue them on those like historical colonne Maurice, just like neon paper. So that's like some people loved it, some people complained because it was like hurting their eyes, and they saw their eyes would bleed. So it's a bit silly, it's a bit dada, it's a bit you know, normally they use for you denying the advertising. I mean, you can write a whole like essay on it, but at the end we're doing it for the fun.
Yeah, that's what's up.
That's what's up.
Did you guys ever imagine when you were producing your most subversive work or publishing some of your more edgy artists that you worked with, that you would be doing artwork in schools?
No, I mean, I don't think we were projecting ourselves further than the evening drinking beers. You know, that was like the end of the, that was like as far as we could think. Like, you know, printing, and what happened next is bar, concert, then is another life.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. But in another hand, I think we're happy and satisfied of what we archive. It's not pretentious saying it. It's just like I think that's the way we can stand for how it developed.
Oh, I mean, for sure. Like, you definitely see the like blueprints of what you're doing now in your very early work, and there is like a through line aesthetically in terms of like color palettes, in terms of kind of compositional approaches. Even with the more minimalist work, you can kind of see the traces of that in the earlier work. Are you guys still paying attention to a lot of more emergent practices in the like DIY world?
Maybe more music.
Yeah.
Not so much in the printmaking or not.
Yeah, or the scene making.
Not maybe in zine and small publishing. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay, for the distribution.
Yeah, because we have like we're still running that distribution platform of artist books, zines, and handmade books like Rizzo and all that. So we're always like looking for like new stuff. So here, yeah, I think we pretty much up to date, and yeah, still like going to some noise concert and buying noise records, still doing that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on today?
No, I think we went through. Oh,
yeah, like yeah.
I guess maybe one other thing I wanted to ask, since you're talking about your legacy, do you guys ever think of like doing a retrospective or a monograph on your older work, or like a kind of like, you know, timeline of the past like 20 years of work?
We just did like a book actually of each year.
Oh wow.
But it's not a time.
It's not like all, but it starts with like the a bit of the older work where we're coming from. So there's a couple of pages with like geek posters and zines and so on, and books in addition, and then it goes to, you know, the new works. And then we're working on a second book right now that is like the 300 we call them work on paper, and it's monotypes. So we did like over the year like 300 or 400, and we want to publish like a retrospective or a monography about that.
Oh wow!
So that's our next, but we haven't thought about like we prefer to focus on the present. It would be nicer if somebody would do that. We'll take care of our archive. It's not super exciting now to put out a book about you know, what we did in 97 or 2000.
No, I totally agree. I mean, we get asked about that. Yannick and I get asked about, oh, are you ever going to do a book of Seripop posters? I'm like,
which would be super cool. You should.
I mean, it would be great if somebody wanted to put
your
it
time is not
together.
extensible, so you need to get a publisher who take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, I rather be working like you guys. I rather be working on new projects
Yeah,
on archiving and distributing old ones.
Yeah. But I mean, it's nice too, but you have to prioritize, and yeah, maybe.
Yeah, one day. I mean,
it's gonna happen.
We always like in between this, if we should show everything what we ever been doing, or we should just like
focus
on
now.
Now that is always like this
dilemma.
Well, I mean, I think definitely when you look back on some of the more experimental practitioners in gig posters and in like zines and printed chapbooks of that era, like there is, like, you see that there was this real kind of meeting of minds, like an international movement to do something really, really graphically radical that separated from a lot of what had already been going on like even in like DIY, where, you know, ostensibly there's no rules, but then when you see how different like many people who really kind of came to prominence in the early aughts were from what was going on, you realize retrospectively that there were actually tons of rules.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think like maybe something that could also be interesting would be to kind of like look at that era in the kind of more, you know, strange, the more kind of strange and you know, ahistorical kind of views of posters and chapbooks.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for your time and sharing your work. It's so great to get up to date a bit. I'm really excited to see some of this new stuff in the flesh one day.
Yeah, it would be cool.
That would be nice.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to continue this conversation off camera to see if we can make something happen here in Montreal.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Well, I think your dog is saying that it's time to go. So
yeah, it's like the puppy, and she was showing the door, and I think we're gonna have to bring her down before the incident happen again.
Accident.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chloe.
Yeah.
Thanks, Louis.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.